Hello?
What's your name?
I don't know.
I don't know.
My name is Ty Streetman.
My name is Ty and
Tell me
I'm from the
my-
BBC.
Tell me to my ASMR voice.
Yes, you can use this as an outtake if it works.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's my normal.
I don't know voice.
Now I'm going to struggle to like. Hey George.
Hi Ty.
Fancy meeting you here.
It's a funny old thing.
You've got nuts and coffee on your teeth. You might want to just give your teeth a lick. Doesn't detract from you. It's just.
Adds to the authenticity.
Yeah, I think there's nuts on your nose as
I've
well.
got my running kit on. I haven't done my hair. I'll probably stink of body odour. Do I?
No, you from at least from here it's okay.
I can't smell through the lens anyway. So.
Well, there you look great.
What are we doing today, mate?
I'm going to talk a bit about our book project.
That's your book.
Well, it is my book, but it wouldn't be possible without you.
Okay.
And you are the photographer, and you are the mover and shaker, and you're the producer and the guy who gets things done.
Oh, well,
promotes the book.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, mate.
And I just draw some designs, look at some photos, and write some things.
Yeah.
But it lets us produce cool-looking.
This is one of my
Biotopes.
favourites. This is one of my favourites that we've done so far.
This is the one that we put together in 20 minutes with Dave from
Yeah.
Aquarium Gardens.
Yeah.
He was worried he might be having a baby, so he went and left.
Yeah, I need to hurry up. I'm having a baby. All right, we'll just quickly do the skate now, if you don't mind.
And
it turned out to go really well.
yeah, the Mexican Highland stream. But there'll be more about that tank in the book.
And congratulations, Dave. He's had his baby now.
Yeah, lovely little Joshua.
Yeah.
I did say, when is he getting his first fish tank? That we start with something small, 60p.
Yeah.
He can sleep in it until he's too big, and then he can have the tank. We'll send him to sleep. So congratulations to Dave.
Yes.
It's wonderful. And so we were going to talk a bit about this book, which is called
Aquatic Habitats book.
Inspired by Nature. Yeah. And it's a book that we are working on, which will showcase how to set up biotopes, but they're quite loose biotopes. So a biotope is a tank that's based on a natural habitat and tries to replicate that habitat more or less as best as and faithfully as you can. But we're bringing an element of aquascaping to it. We're bringing a little bit more artistic license. Because I think, as you and I have talked about, there's this thing of when people talk about biotopes, they can get quite set on the idea like it must be the exact replica of this stream or this pool. It has to have exact plants, exact fish. That's not always...
It's quite limiting.
Yeah, and it's not always possible for everyone. And sometimes it is achievable, but doesn't really look that great, especially over a long-term aquascape.
Yeah.
It needs to be something you can sit in front of every day and get something out of. And so we've got you as an aquascaper and Dave's input as well, and other friends who've been involved who are helping us put together tanks that don't just look natural but are also artistic in a sense. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be desirable by a large demographic, isn't it? So it'll appeal to beginners, but also for keen aquascapers that want to maybe have a little bit of a closer connection with the animals they're keeping and everything in between. So I'm personally very aquascaping focused, as we know, but actually after spending more time with you, hearing more of your stories, spending more time literally immersed in these biotope aquascapes, I've really noticed my own kind of philosophy around fish keeping is changing, arguably for the better for the animals that we're keeping, because I think it's fair to say that my priority was not necessarily the welfare of the animal all the time. It was more the welfare of the animal was important, but it was like a secondary thought after creating the content or stretching my artistic capability, or writing this article for a magazine, or getting this feature done this video done for so and so.
Sure.
And it would always be the fish would always be almost the last consideration. So you design the aquascape, you plant it, grow it, And then, literally after a few weeks of growing it, you'd be like, oh, what fish shall I put in here for the final photo?
Yeah.
And the fish were literally just that like artistic kind of tick in the box exercise, rather than, well, actually we're keeping a living entity. We've either taken it away from its natural home, or we've created it artificially away from its natural home. So we have a responsibility, I think, as humans, to give them an ideal home, or at least give them the best home that we can give them with the resources and the information that we've got. So, and with your book, people will have access to that information more readily.
Well, I hope so. I mean, the idea that when you were talking about how you begin creating your tanks, that I start from
fish first.
Yeah, the habitat or the fish, or both at the same time.
Yeah.
What species do I want to showcase, or what habitat do I want to showcase? Normally, I think about a habitat. So, what habitats do we regularly find in the hobby? So, which ones provide us with the greatest number of fish? Say, the Amazon basin, rainforest, streams.
Yeah.
And then you have to think, well, what fish are suitable for most people to keep? What are available in the hobby? What can most people easily afford and find? And then once I know the species, I go away and look at lots of photos of the habitat. Is it possible to recreate that in a tank? What other fish could be combined? What are the needs of that animal? Can it be kept long term? Can the tank look nice long term? And then, as you've seen, I'll do a sketch where I said, George, this is my idea, this slice of habitat. How can we make it look more artistic, but at the same time keep it natural? Yeah. And that's when yourself and Dave got involved. So, the way we do the hardscape, we can create a sense of flow, we can create tension by juxtaposing pieces of wood, but always being faithful to the idea that it has to look natural. Yeah. And because of that, the animals then tend to thrive in the tanks. I mean, the Mexican species that we've got here, the Montezuma swordtails, swordtails breed, but these guys are breeding non-stop, and they're feeding, they're out and about, they're confident. And
they're well caught as well?
These ones are actually originally from a local breeder who I got in touch with. Yeah, they're not easy to get hold of in most shops, at least in this part of the country. In Europe, on the continent, it's much easier. But most, say, I was put in touch with Alan Lusby by the British Life Bearer Association. Yeah. And someone said, oh, talk to Alan, he breeds this species. Phone call to Alan, and he offered to contribute a number of specimens for the book. And spoke with my friend Victor Ortiz in Mexico, who sent me photos of habitats. Went away, and how can we turn that into a reality in a small tank? Yeah. So what we're doing is we're having, as the book develops, between 50 and 60 displays, as you know, from all around the world. We've been working our way mostly through the Africa chapter, West Africa, and Congo Basin. We're about to do the Rift Lakes, Lake Tanganyika, Lake Malawi. And for a bit of diversity, we've done some of the Central American stuff already, so we've brought in this Mexican display. So then there'll be Central American, then Australasian, including various rainbow fish. And later in the year, we'll be doing all the Asian and South American displays. And so they're largely fairly easy to replicate displays, but you couldn't go and run your own kind of idea around them. Like, oh, I really like this display, but I want to use a different plant or a different fish. No one says you have to do it.
So in the book, you have alternatives.
So in each tank, each display, I present a list of alternative species of fish. There may be plants that people can also access from that area. We're sadly, due to political constraints, a bit more limited in the kind of plant species we can get in the UK. But
we should be grateful. I mean, people like Australia, New Zealand are even more restricted.
Yeah, I was talking with Jason Solder, who's in Australia. He goes out and films local habitats and rainbow fish habitats. Puts loads of really great information on YouTube. But he was saying, we're quite limited in what species we're allowed. Forget most of the South Asian species because they can survive there, so they're on the banned lists. So we take a display idea and we go through step by step. Here's your tank. here are the ingredients you're going to use, the substrates, the plants, the hardscape, the equipment, the fish. We're doing step-by-step photos of how we set it up. Then we let it run, and we do a final photo before we take it down. And I write about not just the fish and the plants in the tank, but about the habitats that they come from, and quite focused on the environmental threats to those habitats. Because my idea is, as a biologist and a conservationist, I can't bring everyone to the Congo and show them the destruction. I can't bring everyone to the Sumatran peat swamps and show them that it's being cut down for palm oil. I can't take them to the Pantanal wetlands and show them that it's being destroyed for soy and beef production. But if I can get someone to set up a little slice of that habitat in their living room or their sitting room and get them interested in the origin of those fish and plants and the environment, maybe they can then make choices themselves based on that knowledge. Like, oh, actually, I don't want to buy shampoo that's got palm oil in. Or, you know what, I'm not going to buy Brazilian beef. Or lots of people making lots of small decisions.
It's a big change.
It's a big change, and that's how the world
works.
There's this, the classic line is, it's just a drop in the ocean, but what is the ocean but an accumulation of drops?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So that's the ethos of the book. And the other part of it is just, it's a love letter to the hobby. I want people to look at fish that they've seen 100 times in the shop and thought, kept them before, or, I've seen them so often. Oh, a black neon tetra, well, the most common, easily available fish. And I want them to go into the shop excited because they've seen in the book, here's a tank I could do that replicates their natural habitat, and it looks really cool, and the fish in it look great, and now I want to keep that fish again. I want to re-engage people who've been in the hobby for a long time. I want to educate people who are starting and beginning. And I want to inspire people who are thinking of getting involved or what their next project could be.
I think there's something really special about having a deeper connection with something. So going back to when I was talking about being more aquascaping focused in terms of the plants, the aesthetic, and then the fish was seen as almost like an afterthought. The connection wasn't there. The connection was purely artistic and self-serving. From a very almost shallow, quite shallow, really. If you think about it. So what you're doing with the book is helping to, with the stories that you're telling, from the collecting of the fish from the wild habitats, or the habitat conservation itself. Photos of the fish in the wild habitats, anecdotal stories that really help people to get in the mindset and put themselves in that situation and actually feel a stronger connection with the animal they're keeping. It's only when you think about these creatures in a different way that you start to feel more connected. I'm just speaking personally. You start to feel more connected, and then you start to feel a bigger sense of responsibility, and then that permeates not just through you keeping fish, but through life in general. Through if you have children, or if you have dependents in general, friends in need, or a partner that needs some care and attention, you just start to think of other things beyond yourself. So you start to kind of approach life from a place of service to others, and so you're serving something bigger than yourself rather than just self-serving. So going back to the anecdote, the story of me in my early days of aquascaping, it was very self-serving. It was very like, wow, I can create these beautiful aquariums, they look beautiful, I'm getting lots of attention from the press, from peers, from industry people, and this is all great. But I'm forgetting actually the thing I'm actually doing is keeping fish, and actually I feel a bit like it's payback time for me now. They've served me so well. I've got to quite a successful kind of point in a career to do with fish. And now I feel like, bloody hell, George, you've kind of exploited these fish. and now I've got this deeper understanding, and you've helped me do that through the book. I feel privileged now to be in a position where I can work on the book with you, help fulfil this sort of almost Pollyanna-ish mission to serve something bigger than ourselves, which is educating and inspiring people, about fish and their habitats.
Well, you've been doing it for longer than you think, because my love of biotopes, I've told you many times.
My love of biotopes.
My love. That's my BBC voice. Started largely because of the 3 tanks that you did years ago.
Yeah.
You did your Cambodia peat swamp tank with some Esperas.
Yeah.
You did the Rio Nanai tank with the Nanai
Angelfish, yeah.
And you did the Lake Myanmar with the Asian rummy nose.
Yeah.
And I was beginning to get more serious about fish. I've been keeping fish since I was 8, but keeping fish properly, really started when I was sort of 19, 20. And then a lot of it, thanks to my friend James Sampson, who got me very interested in biotopes and was like, oh yeah, it's easy to recreate an Amazon forest stream, you just need to do blah, 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 blah. And he showed me the way.
Yeah. And
then I saw your tanks and went, you can do that, but you can also make it look beautiful.
Oh, okay.
And it got me really excited. And then that really, when I'm in the, as you know, I've been really privileged to spend a lot of time in natural habitats, particularly in Brazil. And I take photos of the things, and then I take them home and I look at them and I kind of think, how would George lay this out? How do I keep it faithful, looking natural, which is my sort of biotope thing. But the inspiration has come from you that says, how do I also make it look beautiful? And I think you've already been doing that service for lots of people, and probably for the betterment of their fish in many cases.
I guess so.
And I think this thing, obviously it's the here and now, our actions and our words, it's really important. But it's also the legacies.
Yeah.
I've talked about that with this book. I'd like this book in 30 years to be picked up by someone. Who knows if the Amazon exists in 30 years, I hope so.
Yeah.
But it would still inspire them.
It's a very good point. You don't often consider the actions you're taking now, they'll have generations down the line. When you're creating a piece of art, education, art, literature, photographic media, even digital media, I guess.
It has a legacy.
It does have a legacy.
And people can be inspired and educated by something some of the books I've shown you upstairs that I've got from the 19th century, explorers in Africa, Stanley's Africa, people in the Amazon, written in very different contexts, very different times, and with very different ethics towards animals, slaves, people, indigenous people. But, 150 years later, still inspired and caught up in those books and in their descriptions of the natural world as they see it, and in the information that they show in their pen and ink drawings of species and habitats.
Yeah.
And how could they have imagined that in 150 years, some guy would be looking at that literature because he wants to make a fish tank to keep animals as best as he possibly can.
Yeah.
But
you don't know. You don't know the impact your work's going to have further down the line. It's
that sort of butterfly stamped its foot thing. And we were talking earlier about you talk about the anecdotes and so on. And this book, as I've said, it's not Ty Streetman's book about biotopes. This is a book that's based on many threads of a great piece of fabric of knowledge and insights and experiences from different people around the world.
Mm.
So when I set up a tank, I talk to someone who knows the habitat that I'm interested in if I don't know it personally. So there's in Congo, we've got Thomas Minesi, West Africa, Russell Bryan Tate, there's Jason Saldo in Australia, Fernando Carvalho and Heriberto Jimenez Jr. in Brazil. And I'm constantly meeting people in other parts of the world, and people are putting forward contacts. I haven't been to an Indonesian peat swamp, but I know a girl who's doing a PhD on Indonesian peat swamps. So I write to her, I ask her to show me photos. Aiman Azminovic in Malaysia has been sending me photos about the Rasbora boroptensis. So he goes out, he photographs the swamps, I ask him questions, and then he gives me little details and insights and stories of his experiences. And that's what goes into the book. It's when Ayman goes out to the field, what does he see? What vegetation does he encounter? How are the fish occupying that habitat? What species does he find with them? What are the seasonal changes to the habitat? What are the parameters? that's what's going into the book, as well as my own knowledge and background, history and experience. And I think that will make it a richer book, because it's combining the knowledge and experience and views and insights of dozens of people from all around the world who have their feet wet, if you like, in those habitats.
Sounds exciting. When's the book going to be out?
So it's due to be out late 2023, in time for Christmas.
Christmas, yeah.
It's being published by Skyhorse Publishers, who did your wonderful aquascaping book. Yeah. And we've got quite a lot of work to do this year, because I have to write a lot of chapters, and you have to do a lot of photos.
Yeah.
And poor Dave will have to do a lot of aquascaping with us, but we'll, I'm sure he'll be happy to leave his wife and 2 kids to come and spend time with us.
He'll probably have another kid by then.
Just anything to get out of setting up more tanks with us. Yeah. And we hope to bring in more people, get involved. Pete from Riverwood Aquatics is hopefully coming to help us set up some of the Tanganyika displays. We've got loads of amazing sponsors and contacts.
Yeah, we have to give a special thanks to everyone. It's too many to mention, really, but
I mean,
we'll give a list in the description.
I will put a list in, because there's about 22 different companies and individuals now who are involved in providing
projects,
lights, tanks, fish, substrates, plants, filtration equipment, CO2 systems, their time, their ideas, their energy.
Yeah.
Recently we got to go to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Hosted by Iago
from
WEO, who provided the tanks and lights.
And substrates.
And substrates. And that was pretty amazing. We were in Tropica not long ago, who provided us with the plants for the project.
Yeah.
I think it's an exciting, considering we only started, March last year, the idea.
Yeah.
I guess, so this video is just to talk about what we're doing, what we're going to produce.
What can people ask in the comments? Any questions that they might want to ask you about the book?
Of course.
Yeah.
I hope they do. I hope there's interest. I'm sure people will have suggestions. People
can comment what sort of biotopes they'd like to see.
Oh, that's a good idea. I've got a spreadsheet with, I've got about 68 ideas for this book.
Yeah.
But there's always room for more, an adjustment or swapping things around.
Yeah.
We've tried to keep a fairly...
And Ty's going to do more content on the YouTube more frequently, so let him know what kind of content you'd like to see from him. Yeah.
Sadly, because of COVID and all the rest, there's everyone else getting abroad to do videos, like being back in Brazil or being out. It's been quite difficult this past year, but hopefully we'll be able to produce more interesting content and get more habitat videos up, more tank videos.
I think we're going to try and go to Horizon next week, aren't we?
Horizon Aquatics, which amazing aquascaping. That's more your territory than mine, but they've been wonderfully
there's loads of good scapers up there as well. You've got AD, you've got that Rachel RE fish tanks,
and James and Nicole have contributed various pieces of equipment and also some amazing fish, which they sent us for the project.
Yeah, they're so generous and they're so helpful, and
they got from Max Pedley, who's fish supplier up there.
Yeah.
And we had wonderful African tetras and so on.
Nice. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah, we've been so fortunate in the sponsors.
Very grateful.
I'm grateful to have you on board and
grateful to
do this with you.
Grateful for the opportunity, mate. It's all about sharing the love.
We're good at that. Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers, guys.